A client recently said to me that his wife says that he's controlling and that she doesn't trust him. And he wondered, why does she think that I'm controlling? And one side of this coin is that you want to have certainty in your life. You want to have certainty in your marriage, modeling for your kids, and of course in your career. And so you might have fear. You might have fear and you want to white knuckle grip and fix this and fix what's going on with her. Maybe she's actually wanting to control the situation by saying something like this, like, you're controlling, I don't trust you, pushing him away. So we're going to talk about that today on the Sino Show, guys. Welcome. I'm Jeff. This is Cynthia. So, Cynthia, why might a woman say that a man's controlling when she's in this middle of wanting space and pushing him away? Where does that come from within her? Let's start there, please.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different parts of this. I think in relationship, women can play the game of who has more control or who has more power. A lot of times when control comes into her world, it's because she's not wanting to feel a certain thing. So she's trying to control herself to not experience something. uh she might even be saying you're controlling because she's again not wanting to either feel boundaries or feeling swayed, or feeling like she is vulnerable, and anything to the opposite of feeling powerful in her own world. Even this picture you brought up is really interesting because it's a woman, we might say, that's like perfectly pretending to be perfectly centered, perfectly in control of herself. And that's great and wonderful. Uh, but a lot of times women don't feel that way inside and try to micromanage everything around them to try to achieve that.
Yeah, so good. Let's lean into that. So let's say the kids are in school now and maybe she wants to experience something new in life and she's not aware of what that is. And often men come to us and they're completely surprised by this situation where she's pushing him away. So you said she might not want to feel boundaries now, or she wants to feel her own independence. Why might that have changed since now versus the past? What all of a sudden is different?
I could say, if we're talking about kids, let's say she felt really bound, if not contained in a good way, by her own identity of being a mom and what her kids need and what she's gonna push to make sure her kids need. And then when that shifts, when kids don't need her in the same way, it's almost like the landscape becomes brand new and she might want to be feeling a different kind of power, or she might even be wanting to make up for lost time of things she had to give up
Hmm.
in the past, whether it was, hey, I'm aligning in relationship, but there's part of me that didn't get to be free and wild, or as a mom, I didn't feel my own sense of power and autonomy. And so now I'm going to super overcorrect and try to
Hmm.
really make that happen externally.
Hmm. Good. Thanks for getting us started. Let's talk about this. So, Mr. Flash wanted to come in. Also saw other guys come in. Tim's in here now too, and Jeff and Caesar's in here too. I love seeing you guys. Come in
Yeah,
and let's
hey,
talk about this. Yeah, go for it.
what the fuck? I never tried to control her at all. I never told her what to do. I never told her who she could hang out with. Nothing. None of those kind of classic controlling behaviors. But what I was dismissive and invalid, which is different, right, from controlling. But it occurs to me, and I'm going to ask Cynthia, could a woman experience that as controlling?
Oh, I find that a very perceptive question. Uh, yeah, you're right. Women have like they put the word controlling around really strange things. And let's say her emotional world is her reality. So if she's experiencing, whether it's real or perceived, that it's being dismissed, uh, it's almost like her reality's getting dismissed, and she might perceive that as someone trying to block her from feeling a certain thing or railroad her into a different way of thinking or being. Uh, but I understand why that would be so confusing and seem um, so different from the overt, I'm going to control you and tell you what to do.
Yeah, I mean, just because I don't know if other people had the same experience of being accused of being controlling and being like, what the fuck? Like, it just not that's not resonating at all. So maybe other folks have had the same experience. But then I just, as you were speaking, it occurred to me, I was dismissive, and that might have been the, yeah, that felt like control, even though it didn't feel to me like control.
Sure.
Anyway, I'll let other people speak. I don't want to take up the whole time.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for jumping in. That's a great question.
Um,
Mr. Nebraska, yeah, go for
Gulf of Nebraska, yeah. Um,
it. Yeah.
so no, honestly, that in the near the time of our separation happening, that kind of stuff kind of came out of the woodwork, I guess you call it. And one of the things that she repeatedly mentioned was that I didn't ever allow her the time to go do anything because I was either at work or doing something myself. Was confusing to me and always has been because there's been bountiful times where I've been just sitting at home where she's sitting next to me and not doing a damn thing. Or even so that she wanted me to be home not doing a damn thing with her.
Sure.
But then now because of whatever, it got brought up as that, and that it was that, oh well, since you go do all this stuff and spend all this money, then it left me at not able to do anything. And I'm sitting there going, well, for one, you never asked me to do anything or discussed it. You just, I don't know. She never brought anything to my attention that she, hey, I want to go hang out with these people, or hey, I want to go do this. Or the one and only time that I can think of that really where she had something she wanted to go do, I had an event that I was working at and on a Saturday, and she went and scheduled a hair appointment at the exact same time, knowing that I had already had that event. And then because I didn't have a game plan for the kids, because we now are both double booked, it was almost that it was my responsibility to take care of that because of something that she scheduled after the fact of knowing already that I was doing that. But anyway, that's a little sidetrack. But the controlling thing, yeah, there's just a lot of it related around a lot of finances and a lot of that perceived time of, well, I'm not able to do anything because I'm taking the kids to these places. I'm doing this with work. I'm blah blah blah. And a lot of that was weird because I worked a lot more than she did hour wise during the week, and she had more flexibility to do whatever she wanted. I mean, hell, to this day, I still don't know what she did on every Wednesday.
Yeah. So time
I have
flexibility.
zero.
Right. So time, controlling of finances, these are big ones. The idea that maybe she doesn't have control of the finances, that's a big one. What have you
Well,
since, yeah, what have you since learned
so
about,
she did have control of the finances. I mean, that was her thing. That was what I let her do. But she said the fun finances part is the part that she didn't have control of, the excess money. But since then, I've learned that she just doesn't make time. Still,
Um,
still. I mean, and we've been out separate from houses since September, and she still hasn't done anything. She still doesn't do anything. She still is the same. But she doesn't bring it to my attention now, or she doesn't run it past me anymore. Or she doesn't balk at me because I'm doing this or doing that, because when I have the kids, she can do whatever the hell she wants. But yeah, she chooses to just sit at home.
so it was something really, yeah, that's consistent. That hasn't changed. It was something already within her.
Yeah, it just I don't know if it was just, and I multiple times invited her with me to go out and do whatever. I was a very proponent of date nights, separate nights, whatever the case may be, and it just never really went anywhere and started to slowly die away.
Yeah, I hear you. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
Appreciate you being here. Absolutely. For this idea of controlling, how much control does she want? Does she really want? What is she? Did you find out something about yourself where you were controlling in the past and you didn't realize? What's your take on this topic?
I just asked a question in the chat there, but I'll say it verbally. Is I'm curious. I don't think I was particularly controlling, but I'm curious, Cynthia, if wanting or needing something that your wife doesn't want to give makes her feel like you're controlling, like wanting emotional regulation, wanting validation. Does that get interpreted as controlling emotionally from her?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I think so. Initially, I have to say, I just feel the ache even in this conversation of this idea of control because I can feel how confusing it is to the masculine, where that's the last thing in your mind. You're looking to direct action. You're looking to create container. Um, I think if we talk about women being so their whole center is based on what they're feeling in the moment. If they feel like they have to pour into another cup a certain feeling that someone really needs them to have or a certain experience, it can feel like a loss of freedom. Uh, um, it reminds me of like being at school when you're in elementary school and you kind of don't have the freedom just to run outside and be at recess whenever you want. So, yes, can she feel that? And if she's really sensitive to energy, might she feel that more? There's also a very mature way to look at it for the feminine that this is a part of the dance of relationship as well. That, yes, we're wanting to be filling the cup of another person. Uh, so it could be even a struggle with her in her own self of wanting to do that or feeling pulled to do that, but then feeling like it's out of her control.
Or she's not filling her own cup up and feels like someone's asking something from her when she doesn't even have her own cup full.
Yeah, that is a very astute observation. And if a woman does pin that to her kind of evolutionary survival that she has to give even when she's not full, it will feel like a very taxing requirement. Again, it comes from a more younger place inside of her, but it will feel like a lot to give in that moment.
Cynthia, how do you manage your own practice around this, the filling yourself up, the need for in relationship, the need to give, or the, let's say, level three practice, feminine practice of, okay, I'm showing up to give? Where, men here, you guys, you ground yourself each day. You do reading, you show up to these calls, you have vision for the man you want to be and the man you want to be in relationship, not only for a woman, but your kids and yourself and at work. So men here are doing their intentful work and they want to show up and be present and open-hearted and all these things, right? And so what does a level three feminine practice look like in that way, briefly? How do you show up to give, like you were saying?
Yes. So let's say that the freedom of the feminine also has a great desire to feel free, but it's an emotional freedom. There is the aspect that that's all within her. How she experiences her emotions and how she chooses to extend them outside of herself or pull them in is all within her own dance. Uh, the thing that gets really hard as a woman is if you have old triggers or old hurts or even feeling like you have old holes in yourself that you haven't filled in, then it feels like you're kind of being pulled like a puppet in the outside world. But knowing that when you do your work, the one who has control is you of your own your own emotional landscape is really what that feeling that women try to get through control is really about.
So, was there a shift in your past where you either learned or realized, okay, I need to do this for my own self, fill these holes for myself, and then part of relationship is to show up to give, to show up to have an ebb and flow back and forth? Was there a realization or a learning you had?
Yeah, I think, and this is why I love sitting in on these calls, is I would never have learned that without experiencing the healing masculine energy in my life. The healing masculine that allowed me to have emotions that were kind of all over the place or from a very young childhood place. And it could be held with such depth of heart and understanding and container that actually helped me have more confidence in my own inner container and my own heart for my emotional
Mm.
experience. I would never have learned that all on my own. I never would have learned that reading a book. I never would have learned that having the perfect meditation practice. It truly, I think for women, it's that divine masculine that gives them that internal freedom.
Mm. I'm curious where you are in that dance with your wife, and if Aaron can come in after, and if Bill's available. This idea of frame for her, of inviting her into this dance, where do you think that is for you?
How long do you have? I mean, it feels like we're making progress, but it feels really painfully slow. And I'll say it feels that she has an idea of what divine masculine looks like based on past experiences. And it feels like as much as she's trying and as much as I'm showing up, it's so hard for her to let go of that ideal or to let go of that vision, or maybe she shouldn't let go of that vision. It's hard for those two things to connect. That's why I said, how long do you have? Because like that's a deep rabbit hole.
Sure. Well, do you have a particular question right now at the edge of your experience with her?
I don't know if I have a question. I mean, I'm just trying every day to like be an emotionally like create emotionally safe environment. But, you know, you're fighting your own battles while you do that. You're fighting your own little boy. You're fighting, the kids' reactivity. It's just a really long slog to try and walk back to a place and create a place where she feels emotionally safe enough when you've got a whole shitload of baggage.
Okay. Do you feel like you're making progress on your stuff and feeling safe within your own self, to your point? Perspective on your own baggage, as you said?
Slowly, but I mean, it's still there's so much sensitivity and like desire for gratitude and desire for validation. And, you know, I'm easily triggered. I think I do a good job of externally controlling it, but my wife is also like an emotional radar ninja. Um, you know, I work hard to try and provide for the family and do the things we need to do around the house and stuff. And for some reason, I feel a pretty big lack of gratitude for that. And I think a lot of that's my own shit. I think there's a little bit of her shit. And so, to answer your question more succinctly, I'm working on it. But
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, welcome. Welcome back, as
I'm
always.
gonna go. I'm gonna go pour myself a shot now of
Yeah,
five.
right.
Thanks for
Right.
cracking that one open, Jeff.
Yeah, man. Good to see you. Yeah, well, thanks for kicking in. I appreciate it. Yeah, let's go to Aaron. Can you come in? So,
Sure.
perspective. You said it's about perspective is everything. Say more about that.
In terms of, I was thinking about another thing, and not that perspective, right? But what seems to be happening is that the more I work on myself, the more that I can see how the events unfolded for us and how her vision of the world versus my vision of the world were very different, where there was a crash, right? Um, and I'm learning more and more the function that it plays within a relationship, her perspective versus my perspective, right? And I continue to study her view of the world versus my view of the world, right? And I've learned first that she's another human being with a different mind, female, right? Um, and that it's fine for her to be the way she is with her female mind, right? That she has ways of how do you say it, of protecting herself, right? That is very different from mine. That she has cloth that she can use if she wants to, right? Um, and that I don't need to change her perspective. I just need to understand that there is another brain there with another set of values and beliefs, right? And it's like it opened another view for me, right? Another view for me, and it's pretty interesting, right? It's like, okay, this is, and then my kids, every one of them, they have their different view of the world, right? This different perspective in their ages and their maturities, right? And then I deal with that mindset and not with my perspective because everything before was me and my perspective, and if and it was only my reality what the world was about, and not that's not true. It's created a very big world, right? So it's just I'm still impressed, but I'm going through it, right? And in terms of what Luke said a minute ago, I'm with him. I'm going through the phases of the relationship. Where are we right now? Sometimes I feel that we're more connected. Sometimes I feel that we're more apart. Sometimes I feel that I am the one that's going the wrong direction and I need to correct it.
Mm.
Um, and I mean
Right.
I'm but it's fun, it's interesting, it's different. And I continued that I'm moving in the positive direction. I'm making the right things, right? I need to adjust, but I'm moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah, Aaron, fantastic. You feel more open and accepting, and like you said, you see things from different points of views, whether it's hers or your kids. So when your wife accuses you, let's say, I don't know if she says she accuses you of being controlling, but when she accuses you of something nowadays, how do you handle it? How do you see it in a new way?
And first, I created my flow chart basically of how I need to go through the process so that I don't react immediately, right? And so it's like, okay, I'm hearing this. What does it mean, right? So, okay, so I sometimes she gets mad because I don't respond quick enough, right? But I need to go through my own process of thinking and then, okay, I didn't, so I stop my triggers, right?
Wow.
Um, and then I can respond, right? Sometimes I postpone the topic a few minutes, right? So I can calm myself down. Um, Sometimes I feel that I don't get triggered, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. Why didn't I get triggered? Because
Nice.
I jumped to the hoop, right? So
Yeah.
it's about really understanding what is she saying, what type of communication she's trying to do. I use the feeling now, right? It's more about if I feel guilt, then she's doing some manipulation, some trick, something, right? So I'm using my feelings also to guide myself through through this process.
Wow.
Um, so it's been interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, very cool. Fantastic. It reminds me of this picture that I queued up describing what you're saying exactly now, Aaron. Okay, I'm balanced in my opening my heart and in the way I think. I pause. I don't just try to fix things or let my brain plow forward. I open and consider. And your point there at the end of if you feel like she's guilty,
Guilt.
yeah, you take time with that and you understand that now. And anything more about that that you would say to another man if he asks you, why do I feel guilt when she says these things to me?
If I feel guilt, then she's guilt-tripping. She's manipulating me some way, right? So I need to stop. Okay, I identify where the manipulation is. Where is she trying to get? Because there's always a one, right? Money or time or kids work or whatever, right? And if it makes sense, let's say she's guilt tripping me with work for my kid, and I say, okay, it's my kid. I can also help here. Okay, so it's many times it's her way of communicating things, right? Where it's using guilt to get things done, but it's something that is very valid for my kid, like homework, right? That I can help, like math, right? So, okay, she didn't need to do that, but I can do the thing that she's asking for, right? But if she's trying to obtain something like not logical, not another then she's guilt trip or she's manipulating for another subject that it's not benefit for me or there's no value in me doing it. So it's like, okay, no, this is this is a no, and I need to find my way to the no.
Hmm.
It's
And
so
then this,
cool, Aaron. Yeah, you've like risen above so you can see from three dimensions now what's happening and you can make a
right,
decision. Yeah,
right,
so cool. Hey, thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it.
no
Glad you're here.
problem.
Bill, coming in, what would you want to say to this? You said she said she felt like she wasn't a partner and that that was controlling her in some way. What would you add to that? How do you mean?
Yeah. Well, first, my sort of experience was like I don't know, 6 months of like working on this, and then it was over before I even knew it was over. So I commend both Luke and Aaron. I mean, like this is hard work. I'm just like, wow. Um, but I just remember that, that was one of the things that she said, whether it was an excuse for what she was doing, but like you made this purchase and you didn't ask me, you didn't consult me. And we had made an agreement about, like I go to work and you take care of the kids and I'll let you know if there's issues with money because that was one of the things that she said. I'm like, well, okay, well, there wasn't. And I guess I could have communicated that to you, but it was just a challenge that I wasn't prepared for that to come out. And so I guess if you ask me the question, it's like, how do we sort of like, going forward, I'll have other relationships in my life. Like, how do I not do what I know how to do? Like, how do I not make someone feel like I'm controlling them? Like, hey, I'm planning a trip for this weekend. Well, I don't want that to come back to me and say, well, you're controlling, and I just, it adds some sort of like, oh gosh, and now that I have a little bit more inside knowledge, I'm like, okay, am I being controlling here? Like, and so does that like not spur confidence, that sort of thing. So that would be my question for Cynthia. Like, what is not controlling?
Yeah, that's a great question. And how does a man dance in a relationship where he's inviting this level three way of being together?
Yeah, that's a amazing question, Bill. And I could just what a like balancing act you describe of I don't know how she's going to react, maybe this future relationship. If we put the past to the side of with your ex-wife and we talk about new relationship, the kind of energy you've already worked on, who you are as a man, is going to attract a woman who will delight and be um, amazed that you want to plan a weekend away and you've taken care of all the details. And the fact, like early in relationship, that's like excites her, that's a really amazing sign of a woman in her feminine. As relationship develops, there is a part of women, and some might give me feedback that not all women are like this, but one thing I've noticed with women is they don't play the side by side game very well, where I've experienced the masculine is like, hey, I'm doing my work, I'm doing the job. And as long as I'm taking care of my thing and you're taking care of your thing, we're connected, everyone's in line. A woman much more wants to be side by side, but also in the checking in phase. Know that you still care. There's like cords between the two of you. Um, and so that's just the thing that came up when you describe the dynamic of like, hey, I've got work and you've got the kids, and the why to some of her complaints, which I know are not true, but were her experience.
Yeah, that like that's super helpful. And it seems so simple. And I think it is in practice of that sort of like, okay, you've got these two things and weaving them together as you go down your paths. That's super helpful. Well, thank you. It just I mean it just seems it's like duh, it's so simple. Don't like it's this stupid, but it's not just that, it's not as intuitive for some of us. So
Sure. Well, I mean, when you're holding up the world and you're playing chess and all these moving pieces, sometimes the checkers of home life and touching base, feel overly simple.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything else there?
I appreciate your feedback, and I can even resonate to kind of what Erin was saying, where a woman's only in her mind and she's not aware and always intuitive, attuned to how the masculine's working. And so I think there's everything to be gained in letting the other person's brain know the inside doors, because I would want you to be with a woman in the future who's equally wanting to be in tune to you and intrigued and wanting to learn with you.
Yeah, and now that you say that, it's kind of one of those things where, like she would hit me with those, you're not making me feel like a partner. I'm like, well, what do you know about what I'm doing during the day? And are you checking in with me? And do you appreciate what I'm doing? And that's something that Luke said too. Do you appreciate all that goes into what I'm doing? And so maybe it was just a disconnect both ways. But I feel like that checking in on both sides is important and, will be
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. Sounds like you're cultivating that from the beginning now, Bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, man. Jeff, can you come in? Jeff put in the chat. I try to constantly remind myself she's not wrong. She's not bad. She's not crazy. Yeah. She's got her way of thinking. And Jeff, I'm curious, where are you with the attempting to invite her into little bits of connection during this kind of limbo time that you talked with us about?
Yeah, micro steps for sure, but really where I think, at least stabilizing some ground right now is just respecting the space and the boundaries that she's made very clear that she wants right now. But the reason I put the comment in, it's certainly not my original thought. I picked that up from you, Jeff, or maybe it's Tim Wade who says that all the time. But those three words there were getting me into just all kinds of hot water when I was thinking she was wrong or bad, had bad intent, or that she's going through a midlife crisis and acting crazy. And so I've really done some damage with that. And I've even told her explicitly, hold me accountable to that. If we're having a conversation and I'm in some way trying to invalidate what you're trying to express to me, that you are wrong, bad, or crazy, call me out on it, because I pledge to you that I know that that's destructive to our communication style. And I saw really just kind of a sigh of relief come over her when I said that, because I know she's been feeling the vice grip of that so strong. So yeah, just giving a little space right now. Not I'm not getting the bids of attention and affection I would certainly like, but I'm much more grounded and not hummingbirding her every day.
Yeah, very cool. Good for you. Yeah, I don't know about you, but when we're in the world and we need to go kick ass at work or make money or whatever it may be, sometimes we just have to be assertive. And then if we bring that into our relationship, that's maybe not appropriate. That sounds like you're calling that out for your own self and with her.
Yeah, I just need to sit with her feelings. It's not my style, not my strength. But I see it now. Whereas in the past, when she would unload on me, I thought that was just really destructive. But now I see it as at least that maybe is her attempt to try to be vulnerable with me. And her vulnerability is this just brutal honesty in some cases, but I have to be able to sit with that and not try to invalidate it.
Yeah, that's well put, Jeff. I appreciate it. Thanks, man. Yeah, that reminds me of a snippet I brought today. This is from a Good Guys to Great Men article. It reads, "This is where the difference between leading and controlling starts becoming clearer. A man who is controlling has expectations around his invitation. That means if she declines, if he just needs to find another way to get her to agree, right? If she declines, oh, now we're trying to talk her into it, or if a man that gets upset and tries to justify something, he takes her decision personally and gets to work on proving why she's wrong and she should see how he's right. That's a man who's controlling. A man who's leading his relationship makes invitations to connect and allows her to respond however she wants to. He recognizes that how she responds tells him something about how she's feeling, and he doesn't take that personally. Instead, he gets curious about why she made the decision. A leader wants to know what's going on with everyone in his life so that he can make better decisions and better invitations. So, what does this feel like to you, Cynthia, when a man allows her, for instance, the couples that we work with, the men and women that we work with, our clients, where he can recognize that her response is just about how she's feeling right now, and he doesn't take it personally. How does that not feel as controlling? How does that allow her freedom, even though maybe she doesn't like it, she doesn't feel good, things aren't going perfectly in life, but he's not trying to fix her emotions? What is that like for a woman?
Yeah, even you just reading it, I felt my whole chest, all the muscles just relax, even with that word allowing, because I think women get so trapped in the world of trying to control, manipulate, uh, micromanage, because they're all just seeking for the allowance and the permission to have these parts of themselves, to have this emotion, to not be told that it's wrong, to not be uh, for her to not to prove her experience. And some women take that in a way where they really make that all someone else's fault. But I really want to say at the heart of it, she is just looking for allowance, even if it's her looking for allowance of her own self.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you. We'll close it out here in a moment. I want to remind you guys the carrot versus the stick. And we've shown this in other calls as well, right? We want to offer the carrot and not the stick. And the carrot is praising her, being fun and easy to be around, non-judgmental, where you yourself, you have a big mission and a journey that you know that you're on regardless. You have a vision for intimacy, bringing your full self and having frame for your own self, not relying on her versus the stick, right? Criticizing her, shaming her, being an ass if you're not getting your way, your little boy stuff that you're taking out on her, or feeling like you need to control things, guilt tripping like we talked about. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe or like if you're enjoying this, right? And check out our stuff if you want to get invites to these free calls. If you want to reach out for one-on-one paid coaching or get our free stuff, go to greatmenmovemountains.com and check it out, right? Last video was when she thinks I only want sex. And of course, today my wife says I'm controlling and she doesn't trust me. What would you leave us off with today, Cynthia? What are you seeing from the guys here of how they're perceiving, whether their wife is improving herself or not? What are you seeing from the guys here today?
Yeah, I think I'm I'm deeply humbled by, I mean, there's many stories shared about, women, your wife perceiving certain things as controlling. But what I hear here is the energy of even allowing her to have her beliefs about that. And I think we can do a lot of things to allow a woman to feel allowed, but she also is going to pick up on the masculine in him own self. And is he allowing, providing allowance for his own different parts and little boy pieces? And so I guess it's a call out that how you hold your own being, the way you have so much heart for the other, when you get to also hold it for yourself, the feminine gets to feel that anyways as well, and feels how safe she is in your presence because she feels your own mastery and presence even for yourself in that.
Yeah, very cool. So guys, if you have questions, email us, post in the forum, post comments below. We love seeing you guys. See you next time. Thanks, Cynthia. Bye, guys. Ciao.